Hello, everyone. We're entering the phase of the program which is very solution-oriented. We've already completed step 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Last time we built our own personal inventory. It's in step number 4. It says to create a fearless and moral inventory of ourselves. We'll understand even better today when we get into chapter 6, which is called Into Action. Chapter 6 is given to the sponsor in order to sit down with the sponsee, the one that completed his inventory sheets, in order to discuss them, to really dig out from the 4-step inventory exactly what the problem is. Let's take a look at what the reading says on page 72. It says, having made our personal inventory, what should we do about it? We've been trying to get a new attitude, a new relationship with our Creator, and to discover the obstacles in our path. I want to pause here just a minute to share with our listeners that this is actually the mission statement of our entire program. Consider the wisdom in what Bill Wilson just shared with us. We've been trying to get a new attitude, a new relationship with our Creator, and to discover the obstacles in our path. It's saying that the new attitude implies that there's an old attitude that didn't work, that is the root of our problem for those of us suffering with a porn addiction. It's telling us that our old relationship with God also didn't work. So why? That's why the third part of this sentence is so meaningful, because it says, let's discover the obstacles in our path. It's very much if you were driving down the road and you were experiencing a bumpy road, things were very uncomfortable in your car, and you would wonder, well, what's going on? I don't like this journey that I'm on right now. So you would, as a good driver, you would look out the windshield and you would see, there's the road ahead is full of all sorts of potholes and bumps. These are obstacles for me. I can't have a smooth ride when there are obstacles on my journey. So let's understand what those obstacles is. And in doing so, our goal is to get a new attitude and a new relationship with God. And in doing so, our porn addiction will be lessened and hopefully entirely removed. Let's take a look further what Bill Wilson writes in this chapter. It says here, we have admitted certain defects. We have ascertained in a rough way what the trouble is. We have put our finger on the weak items in our personal inventory. Now, these are about to be cast out. This requires action. Action. This is the first time that Bill Wilson says action, which implies that steps 1, 2, and 3, and 4 were a relationship, building using our minds in order to have a belief in God, understanding He can restore us to sanity, and making decision to turn our will and our life over to God. This is all a mental exercise. In step 4, we're still digging in and trying to discover our character defects, how our resentments and fears and our sex harms is affecting our ability to live a healthy and joyful and serene life. Now we're taking some action. Let's see what it says about in this step further. It says, this requires action on our part, which, when completed, will mean that we have admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our defects. This brings us to the 5th step of the program of recovery mentioned in the preceding chapter. Okay, so that's the setup. What we're doing here is that we're bringing our inventory that we worked on in step number 4 to our sponsor. And then in doing so, and in our discussion of resentments and fears and sex conduct and harms, let's find out a little bit about ourselves and let's understand the obstacles in our path. It continues on page 72 saying, this is perhaps difficult, especially discussing our defects with another person. We think that we have done well enough in admitting these things to ourselves. But there's doubt about that. In actual practice, we find that solitary self-appraisal insufficient. Many of us thought necessary to go much further. We will be more reconciled to discussing ourselves with another person. when we see good reasons why we should do so. So let's look at some of these good reasons. But first, let's understand this point where Bill says that we find a solitary self-appraisal insufficient. I mean, isn't that what we have been doing so far? If you're watching this, then you have a desire. You feel there's a need. You feel to quit the porn addiction. You obviously, and I can admit this personally, in my days of raging use of porn, that it interfered with my life. I didn't feel like I was living an appropriate life. There was a double standard. And I would try on my own with my own willpower. That's called self-appraisal. Well, Bill Wilson is teaching us that that's not enough. It continues, the best reason, if we skip this vital step, we may not overcome the use of our porn. Having persevered with the rest of the program, people wonder why they fell. We think the reason is that they never completed their house cleaning. They took inventory all right, but hung on to some of the worst items in stock. Now, what Bill is about to share with us is known in our circle as the warning. Here's the warning. Bill teaches us they only thought that they had lost their egoism and fear. They only thought that they had humbled themselves, but they had not learned enough of humility, fearlessness, and honesty in the sense we find it necessary until they told someone their life story. Now, what we just stated, Bill shared with us, is also known in our circles as the big three. What are the big three? Humility, fearlessness, and honesty. Now hold on to that. Write that down if necessary, because these are the spiritual muscles that we are going to be exercising through this step and throughout the rest of our lifetime. Humility, fearlessness, and honesty. The implication here is that our porn addiction is a result of a lack of humility, fearlessness, and honesty. For those of you that are interested in becoming healthy and fit, we know that there are three primary core parts of the body. One of them is the core, which are the abdomens. The other is our back. We want our back to be strong. And the third of the three parts of our body that we want to exercise is our legs. It's all about exercising these three physical parts of our body and to be physically fit. What Bill has just taught us, that in order to be spiritually fit, and this is a program of spiritual action, we need to be learn how to exercise our humility, fearlessness, and honesty. And in doing this step number 5, let's examine how we do that.